noises from the floor.
Yeah. If anybody's got some old gas bottles that are not being used anymore, the metal worker could do them. As many as you've got.
9 kilograms?
I'll bring them up.
Yeah, that one. Anytime over the next few weeks, yeah.
You take them to the dump, take the top off and
Yeah.
it's fine. So I'll bring them up, that's great. I've known what I was going to do with them. Excellent.
That could be ongoing too, if they come up. Gas bottles expire after 10 years,
Yep.
and they can't be refilled after that. So if you've got anything that's more than 10 years old, bring it up and we'll do it.
What's the point of taking it half and make something out of it?
I thought you just left it in the repository when you start cutting off.
It's not that you do, you just
Leave them with that.
Yeah, you can. You can also bring them up here.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Now, where's Ted? Ready to go? There he is. Put your hand up, Ted. Oh, there he is. Everybody knows Ted, so there's no need to do a run on him. He's a big fellow over there just going to talk about Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming today. I guess you've heard about electric cars. Anyone here own one? One? I own one. Anyone driven one?
Yes. Well, hybrid.
Okay. And hybrids? Okay, they're almost electric. Okay, let's look at some of the myths. The problem is that electric cars tend to divide the community, and EVs have become politicised ever since Morrison said it would ruin your weekend. Yeah. Political parties since then have used them as a wedge to divide people for political purposes, for votes. Also, there's several social media people in Australia which unfortunately badmouth by supporting the myths about EVs quite ferociously, and that can be misleading if you believe them. There's now plenty of real-world experience about EVs across the world. And in Australia, there's 250,000 owners which have driven over 1 million miles of, or 1 million kilometres of EV driving. So there's plenty of data for us to check. Now, this is a fairly common myth, and I guess it's one I've even heard said in this very group, and about the problem if everyone comes home from work and plugs in their EV. People don't do that. Like, I charge my EV about once every 3 days on average for about 15 or 20 kilowatts, and I can use solar for that during the daytime, or if I want at night time, I'm on a time of use tariff, which EV owners tend to do, because then they can take advantage of the cheap times. And at the cheap time for me is midnight to 6, and I can set my car to do that. I don't have to be awake, and it'll charge me 8 cents a kilowatt. That's pretty good. Have you got a question, Ken? No?
Could you just expand on that? You can actually set the car within the car.
Yeah,
to
it's called smart charging. Some people can do it on an app if their cars have an app. Mine doesn't, but mine can do it on the car itself. So I can set it in the car infotainment system about when I want it to charge and how I want it to charge, and I can do. I can also use it on my app. My app is not for my car; it's for my wall charger. So if I plug it into my wall charger, my app controls the wall charger. So if EVs are aggressively sold in Australia, which are not at the moment, but if they were, and all of a sudden we had lots and lots of them, the fear is the grid's going to crash. And the research that's been done on that simply says it won't. There are upgrades to the grid every year, whether there's EVs or not. Even before that, there's upgrades, population rise, etc., like that, that need to improve the electricity grid. With everyone charging, no one tends to charge at exactly the same time. Everyone can choose their own time, whether it's a time of use tariff. If you don't have solar, I recommend time of use tariff, because then you can choose your cheap rate to charge. And if you do have solar, obviously you don't really care about the tariff. You can just charge from the solar, but that requires you to charge it during the daytime. Not everyone can do that. So most people that have solar tend to use a combination of daytime, perhaps weekends, and time of use tariff during the night time, depending on how much of a driving course. Now, the financial incentives for time of use can be quite good. If you're got solar, particularly, you tend to pay very little, if anything, for electricity. Most people that adopted solar in the early days were lucky enough to get the really good feed-in tariff. The feed-in tariff now is next to nothing, and so there's no advantage if you're going to rely on the feed-in tariff to reduce your bill. If you want to reduce your bill, the best way to do that would be through having a battery, a home battery. And that way your solar is charging your home battery during the time that 4 cents is, the feed-in tariff is having. And with mine, I still find that when it's charging the battery, it's still putting a little bit back into the grid. So I'm still getting drips and drabs but it'll charge to 100% by about midday. And then after that, the full amount will go into feed-in tariff if I'm not home.
What does the battery cost?
Well, the batteries vary a lot, and again, there's this huge amount of incentives the government's giving it right now, which favour the rich people more than anyone. I've taken advantage of it. I'm not rich, but it saves you about 30% of the total battery cost, roughly, and up to a maximum of, I think, 58 kilowatts, which is a ginormous battery or series of batteries. I've got 25.8 kilowatts of battery, which is roughly equivalent to 2 Tesla Powerwalls, but they're not Teslas. And that will charge easily by midday during the summer, and 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon in winter time when there's less sun. And that battery will then last right through to the morning easily, and that includes cooking with the oven and all that sort of stuff as well. And so very little is being used from the grid. My average spend on the grid is about 4 cents a day.
And how long does the battery last for?
That's a good question. The batteries tend to degrade over time, so their warranty is. It's important to get a good warranty. Most of them are about 10 years.
Is he talking about the Powerwall battery or the car battery?
Either actually, both. My car battery's is got a warranty separate to my car, so my battery's warranted as well.
For how long?
10 years.
And what happens after 10 years?
It's after 10 years, you have to accept the degradation or get a new car.
So you've lost your.
No. So it's 10 years, and when the manufacturers of batteries are new, they estimated that the battery would degrade by about 2.5% a year. Now, 10 years, they estimate to be 25%. So they offer you a warranty. If it's not 70% left, they'll buy you a new battery. But of course, they were predicting there'd be 75% left. But what they've found in real world usage, the degradation is way less than 2.5%. It's like 0.18%. So after 10 years, you may well have 90% of your battery power left. And they're now predicting that the battery will outlast the shell of the car.
Oh, I find that hard.
No, they will.
That is correct. They're predicting that, and the thing is that because electric cars aren't old, you can't say, well, look at that one, that's lasted a million.
Peter said a good word though. He said they are predicting. That is the word. Predicting can mean anything.
Well, their predictions for battery life have been exceeded. They've actually been better because they were doing it in the lab versus real world. But only time will tell where it's really right.
Time will tell. Exactly.
Yeah, well, there are Teslas around in America that have done over 1 million miles. 1 million miles.
And they, but age is one, miles is one thing, age is another.
With their original battery.
No, but I'm talking about time. There's time and kilometres, two factors.
Yep.
You said 1 million miles, which is one variable, then there's the time.
And most people don't drive 1 million miles a day, so it takes time. And if you look at the average drive per person in Australia, it's around about between 14 to 25 kilometres per day.
How many cars in America statistically travel 1 million American miles? I mean, what are your stats there? How many tens of thousands of cars? You know, you're telling me that's the science has proven that we haven't had.
I've only heard of electric cars doing that, Peter, because most, I believe strongly that petrol cars wouldn't last near that long. They'd be trashed well before that, because their engines don't last that long. The batteries last longer than what the engines do for petrol cars.
But you're talking about a couple of million kilometres. I mean, what car does that?
If your car's sitting in the garage, do you care if it's done 1 million kilometres or not? Because it's still doing kilometres. It'll do the. If you live to 200, it'll still be there. And okay, so.
Sorry, can you go back? What's that V2G?
Okay, V2G. I was talking about the Australian grid upgrades. Now V2G and V2H and V2L is vehicle to load, vehicle to home, vehicle to grid. My car doesn't have that because I've unfortunately got an older one. Mine's 2023, but the much newer ones, as in the last 2 years or so, have at least vehicle to load, if not vehicle to grid or vehicle to home. Now what that means is, if you've got a car that's vehicle to home and you have a blackout, you just plug your car in to the house, and it powers the house, no problem. And because the battery is generally pretty big, it'll power that home for a long time before it needs to be charged again.
6 hours?
6 months. Like if you
Depending on what
depends on the size of the battery, of course, but
and whether you're using
and whether you're using a lot of electricity. But generally speaking, a car battery's, mine's 77 kilowatts usable. If it was full and I plugged it into the house, I don't use 77 kilowatts for quite a while in the house. Kilowatt hours, yeah.
Yes. And the vehicle to load?
Vehicle to load is where you can plug something into the car.
Oh, I see.
Like if you're camping, for instance, and you want to take your TV, your laptop, your toaster, your microwave, whatever you can plug in and carry in the boot. or in the back seat. You can plug into the car and it'll power it. So the vehicle to the grid is where it can plug into the grid directly, and the grid can use the electricity in your battery, just like a VPP in a battery, home battery.
And that would be an advantage, say, if there was variable feed-in tariffs and they wanted power at a particular time.
It enhances the grid because then the grid has the ability to have more power from vehicles rather than from coal power stations or from gas power stations or from the
And it could help to stabilise the grid depending on
Absolutely.
What sort of tariff do you get for that?
If
Well, that would depend
the thing is with vehicle to grid, it's just like a VPP with a home battery. If you're on, say, Amber power thing, they'll pay you the rate. They'll need power usually at the peak times. So whatever the peak value is, say 33 cents a kilowatt, they'll pay you that
This is where
for using your power.
like smart metering and all this. It's
Yeah.
got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to develop this.
It's in Australia. It's developing, and it's not widespread, but it's becoming. It'll eventually become widespread.
And it's going to go the same way as feed-in tariffs from solar. Like in 2 years' time, it's going to be down to instead of 33 cents per kilowatt hour, it's at 10.
It would be market based. So the market, there would be a legitimate.
If you can't base into the solar panels,
No,
now would be paying the reasonable rate.
But that's because you always get a huge amount of solar power available in the middle of the day and in the evenings when the peak usage happens. You haven't got solar power.
And that's the thing during the peak usage. That's when they're taking your power using the peak usage.
So well, the vehicle to grid rate would be very low in the middle of the day when you've got solar panels generating.
Because they probably wouldn't take any power because the solar would cover it.
In the evening, when people get home from work, put the aircon on, ovens and all the rest of it, it would be driven by the market. Sure.
It stabilises the grid rather than destabilise.
Absolutely, and you know, so crashing the grid is just a myth.
But
If you read last
you
week's
don't buy an electric vehicle to stabilise a power company's grid, you buy an electric car to drive somewhere, surely. All these are sort of fringe benefits.
Not anymore. No,
Sorry, what was that, Peter?
So 2 people in this room have got electric cars, that's what they think of them.
Sorry, what did you say?
You buy a car to go somewhere, whether it's petrol, hybrid or electric.
Yes.
And all these other fringe benefits, there seem to be desperate bloody means to sort of make electric cars more attractive for people to buy. You can stabilise a power company's grid. Well, you don't buy a car to stabilise an ergon Energex grid for surely you wouldn't.
I think Terry's point is just that these are things that in the new world now that you can do, not necessarily people buy them.
These are the benefits of it, not the reasons to buy one.
No.
The reasons to buy one are very personal and on a need basis. I do a lot of driving locally, so an electric car for me is perfect because I'm not relying on long distance. My wife wants to buy her next car to be a hybrid because she's worried about the phone call I get from my mum at Gladstone saying, I need you now, and getting there in one loop. Now, I've recently driven to Gladstone in my car, and my lunch stop was at Maryborough at the Tesla power chargers, which are 300 kilowatts. I plugged in there, walked over to Jamie Oliver's food restaurant, had lunch, came back, and my car was already stopped charging because it was so quick. So that was my halfway point, and then I could go all the way to Gladstone on that. So effectively, if my wife is worried, it's hard to change her mind. But the thing is, you can get there just as quickly in my car as you could in a hybrid. But that's what most people are worried about, is their range anxiety. Now, the other thing about towing, for instance, Some people think they can't tow. Well, as in Morrison's famous spoil your weekend comment, there's a picture of one being towed. That particular Jayco behind is about 750 pounds or so, but electric cars can tow, some electric cars, not all, some electric cars can tow up to 2.5 tonnes, which is not too bad. That's a good question, because if you're towing a caravan in a car, I can bet you your petrol goes down as well. But with an electric car, it goes down about 50% for your range on average. When you think about it though, highway driving, it reduces you by about 25% as well, because regenerative braking is not being used as much as it is around town, so the battery's just being drained, and whereas if you're driving around town, you'll notice that you'll get a lot further on kilometres than you would if you're driving on a highway. That's just the difference in electric petrol.
Wind resistance becomes a much bigger factor on a highway, because the wind drag is a function of the square of the speed. So
Which
you're over in the 80 to 100 kilometres an hour range.
which is why cars are starting to look similar, because of wind drag. Teslas are known as being extremely efficient.
Yeah, but your caravans aren't.
But the caravans aren't. Yeah, that's right. Eventually, you think they might.
But you still use more petrol too, so it's an equivalence.
It's not quite equivalent.
Well, it
He
is.
says 50% reduction. You don't use 50% more for the caravan.
Well, here's an anecdotal one. When I first got mine, I went down, I've got a brother in the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll go that far and get home again, when you get the anxiety.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I left Kenmore, it tells you what the range is left, right? When I hit Yatala, it told me I had 50 more kilometres of range than when I left Kenmore. And I've been cruising down the highway.
It's downhill there, mate.
I was, and each time I've done that, I get the same thing. So even though I'm cruising on the highway, it must be reasonably efficient.
Yeah.
I was stunned. I thought, how can I travel 40k and have 50 more to go?
So all vehicles use extra fuel when be it electric or diesel or petrol when they're towing. The best towing cars are the ones that have the most torque, and guess what? EVs have much more torque instantaneously than petrol cars. Petrol cars have to generally work their way up to get their torque by trying to accelerate, whereas an EV can accelerate extremely quickly. So their torque is amazing, which is what you need to tow.
Constant speed, it doesn't matter.
Sorry?
When you're at constant speed, torque is constant.
Yes, but that constant speed, if it's zero, it's zero. If that constant speed is 100 kilometres an hour, it's 100 kilometres. But you've got to get there.
On a highway, they tell you that you're at constant speed.
Yes, but you've got to get there. When you stop, and then you accelerate. So towing. If you've towed, you know that pulling away from traffic lights is not a easy process. But with an electric car, it is much easier. But you have to make sure your car is approved for towing, and there's a video which I'll see about activating here. I'll just go through and find it. Should have grabbed this. I think this will do it.
He's got one in the car.
Okay. I haven't worked out how to do that, but when you see this on the link on the newsletter, you'll be able to click on that and be able to see the video.
Can you click on it with your mouse on your laptop?
The laptop's not responding because it's on the screen there.
It's not a touch screen.
No, it's not a touch screen. Anyway, but that video is quite funny. Take my word.
Or if you did escape, you could probably go back to the.
That's,
No, it's not.
no, it won't work. Okay. Okay, these are some of the electric cars which are currently allowed to tow and what their towing capacity is. So depending on what you have to tow, it might be worth you having a look at before you buy an EV, knowing that it can tow what you want to tow. Purchase prices and costs, well, they're narrowing at the moment, and a lot of that's due to a large amount of Chinese cars being imported. And I was talking to Graham about that. The Australian government has not got a very good policy about EVs. At the moment, they're rewarding suppliers for importing cars, not selling them. So they're importing cars, not worrying about selling them. So I think Graham said there's something like 51,000 BYD cars sitting in the car park, or a car park, not being sold. Or five, was it?
Sorry?
Yeah,
It's not just BYD, it's a huge.
Just
big lot
BYD.
down there, It's a huge big lot down in Sydney.
Yeah.
So there's all these BYD cars, that's just BYD, because there's other lots with cherry cars.
Vehigle.
Built right here. Brand new car. Yeah.
It's a Chinese brand.
Yeah, there's lots of them around, and
Yeah.
again, as Tess said, it was because the government was trying to encourage people, the manufacturers to get them into Australia, but they're getting the benefits from importing them, not selling them. So they're bringing them in, but they're sitting in these lots, so it's a look.
That sounds like their tobacco tax.
Probably.
Yeah, and the Chinese government supporting their own production of EVs
Exactly.
to the extent where it's cheaper for them to do that than worry about selling them.
I see an example out, there's one of the EVs, I think it might be cherry now, less than $30,000.
Yeah.
That's just price less than $30,000 for an EV.
Well, there's some prices I've currently got up there at the moment, and the Dolphin BYDs. Yeah. The Dolphin Essential is the basic base model. You can get the Dolphin Premium or whatever that is, but that'll cost a little bit more. But still, that's fairly cheap. All of those are fairly cheap when you compare it to what new cars are in general.
All those younger than 5 years old, followed now?
Yeah, they're all brand new.
They're brand new.
My concern is on a new car, they've been tried and they haven't been proven they're fairly newish. Or maybe extended.
What I'm showing you is the prices for brand new cars. All of those cars are driving in Australia right now by people that own them. So they, proven wise, there's owners that have them and use them.
We give them a 10-year warranty.
And the technology
Yes.
is improving.
10-year warranty.
Yeah, yeah. and the other good thing is the second-hand market. People were early questioning the value of batteries and replacement. Second-hand market is where you can buy a good EV with a battery that will last a long time still, with a good battery. And the second-hand market will be even cheaper. So it won't be too long. And well, the estimate at the moment is we won't have a majority of cars being sold being electric until about 2050. 2030 we'll have obviously more than now, but nowhere near as much as what we'll have in 2050. And the good thing about that is the grid's being upgraded all that time as well, which it has to be, and the technology with batteries is improving so much that by 2050 the batteries will be even better than the.
Have we got any idea of how much the actual manufacturing cost of an EV versus a petrol engine? You would have thought that it's infinitely cheaper. Seeing it's only got 2 electric motors and internal combustion.
Production costs can vary, and depending on the plant. Now, Tesla's put a lot of effort into having cast production, where reducing the amount of people involved. It even uses robots and that sort of stuff to produce cars. So their cost of production is less than what it costs a lot of other people, except the Chinese. And the Chinese can do it cheaper, not because of their production methods necessarily, although they do use casting, but because their labour is so damn cheap. And like
The battery's a big cost.
the battery is reducing again quite significantly. In the very early days, the cost of the battery was enormous, and nowadays I think it's less than $100 a kilowatt for the cost of the battery. So the other thing about maintaining your car, this gets into the cost of ownership over a lifetime sort of thing. You have to consider the maintenance as well, because it's not just about the cost of buying one; it's about the cost of maintaining it. Now, I don't think anyone would argue that it's not cheaper to charge your car with electricity than it would be to charge it, put petrol in it at the petrol tank. But you know, the thing is that the servicing costs are also quite a bit reduced, because the amount of moving parts in an EV is quite a few less than there are in a petrol car. You don't have to have your engine serviced, your oil replaced, you just have to have your filters changed and your tyres perhaps, and then also a general safety check with the equipment.
There's no oil, is there?
There's no oil. No.
How do they lubricate the moving parts?
The wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
The wheels just have the normal ball bearing thing that go around. You know, so they're no different to the wheels section is no different to a petrol car. But you don't have oil in the engine at all, because the engine is electric, and there's no moving parts.
Yes, you know, like we've got 10,000 service. What do they say for electric car? So you every 10,000, every 20,000 K?
It does vary.
Once every 2 years.
And roughly,
And the replaceable parts are wiper blades and pollen filter.
Yeah.
And what would they charge you for
For the first 5 years, nothing, because it's every 2 years and I get 2 free. And then a couple of $100 after that, because I know I had a Camry and I was on a special price of $195 every 10,000 for service, but this is by time.
Yeah.
So you don't even rock up for 2 years, and the only replaceable parts are wiper blades and a pollen tool for the cab.
Yeah, and it does vary. For instance, a Tesla car actually doesn't say you have a set amount of time. It just says you can service it when you think it needs it.
I assume do you need heavier tyres or standard tyres?
There's been a lot of research on that, and the general feeling was that because of the weight, they might require more production of tyres. And there's the odd businesses that's latched onto that and produce tyres that they think electric people will buy. But generally speaking, if you go down to the normal tyre place and get tyres, it'll last about the same time. So, you know, if you buy the hype about, oh no, it's electric. Now, having said that, if you drive like a maniac, you're going to go through tyres anyway. But if you drive like a maniac with an electric car, you'll especially go through them because of the torque.
And I assume the brakes are still hydraulic.
They vary depending on, like mine are I got I think rear disc and front pads, but I rarely use my brake. I only use it to actually stop, and when I say stop, I mean from about 5 kilometres an hour, because I use a setting that uses regenerative braking on my car. So when I know there's something I need to slow down or stop at, I'll take my foot off the accelerator. It'll slow down. If it's a red light, I'll slow down, and more often than not, I've got to put my foot on the accelerator a little bit, so I just don't annoy the people behind me because I've stopped too far behind them. But I only have to really stop when I'm doing about 3 or 5 kilometres an hour, and that's my car. There are other electric cars that can stop just from regenerative braking, so they don't need brakes at all. But
electric motor becomes a generator. So when you're driving with an electric motor, when you take your foot off, it becomes a generator. So your motor is your brake as well.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the brake shoes lasted
Sorry?
a minimum of 6
A few years ago, the Nissan electric car only had one pedal.
Okay, did it?
Didn't
Yeah.
have a brake.
Yeah.
As such.
And you can still buy Nissan's Leafs. Like, they've been around for a long time, but there's new ones out there now. They're a little bit more expensive than what I'd like,
Yeah.
but compared to what they are, because their competition is enormously aggressive at the moment, and you can have a car that years ago you would have considered luxury in terms of all it can do, but it's a standard base model. There are some examples, for instance, about maintenance taken from the UK, because they've been going a bit longer than Australia. The leasing company that has 16,000 estimates their EVs cost 30% less than petrol and 60% less than diesel to maintain. And there's the other one down there as well that's shown stats for what it can do for saving costs. And that's a big thing for a company that's job is to lease vehicles. My wife was worried about insurance as well, because she heard, oh, insurance must cost a fortune for EVs. Well, below are some examples of what current, or when I did the slideshow, prices are for various models. Now, bear in mind, my car is a Cooper Born. It cost me $1,348 a year for comprehensive insurance, which includes a hire vehicle, towing and all that sort of stuff. So comprehensive. So mine's even less than the cheapest one there. And there's some more examples of costs. Now, the problem with EVs in Australia is that they're relatively new, and as such, the data set that insurance companies need to give you a risk factor for how much the insurance will cost isn't there, whereas it is overseas. So in Australia, they're still developing their risk factor for how much they need to charge. That's why you should shop around, because you get wildly varying cost values for insurance. Now, then EVs need specialist servicing. Well, depends what you're servicing, because most services doesn't include any of the moving parts at all, doesn't include the engine or anything, because that's usually just part of the health check and it works fine. But so you're limited to various basic things like rotating tyres, filters, and windscreen wipers, things that mostly you can do yourself, but generally speaking, warranty-wise, sometimes it requires you to actually do it at a service centre. My charging experience, well, here's an example of a new technology that's in Sydney. That was first developed in the UK, where they have curbside charging, and that's equivalent to a destination charger. Now, a destination charger, there's lots of terms: DC fast charging, destination charger. Destination chargers are generally slow, and they're normally at places that you're going to be parked at for a while. So if you plug your car into your power point at home, that's equivalent to a destination charger. Some might be as slow as that. Others might be just a little bit quicker, but not a lot quicker. And what that is an advantage of is people that don't have off-street parking, so they can't have a home charger because they don't have a garage. And as people live in the city in apartments or in places where they don't have ready access to places where they can charge, destination chargers are their best bet. If you're going on a long trip, that's the only time you use a fast charger. There aren't enough chargers. I agree with that. The holiday period in particular might be a problem. The example I gave earlier, where I stopped at Maryborough at the Tesla fast charging network there are I think there are eight 300 kilowatt fast chargers. That's pretty good, but come holiday time, they may be full, or they may not. I don't know. They may be full. And certainly there's places up the coast where there's one or two, or sometimes up to four. Those ones, the 1 and 2, quite often are full right now, if you're, despite holiday time. So a lot of apps you can use can actively tell you if one's being used or not and one's available. Some of those apps, like PlugShare, relies on the user though, because the user has to log in to that charge site, saying I'm here, I'll be here for an hour, or I'll be here for half an hour, and you can message me if you need need me to move or whatever.
Could you charge from a UV panel on top of the car?
There's a lot of cars in the EV market that have explored that area, and there's I'm trying to think of the name of the car. It's actually licensed as a motorcycle because it's 3 wheels, but it's a two-seater 3-wheel vehicle that's covered in solar panels, and it is yet to be mass produced and brought to. It's in the production stage, being developed. It's generally thought that particular car would rarely, if ever, have to be charged, depending on where you live, of course, with sun.
It's surprising where they do have the charges though. My recent trip now, I mean, you can drive to Mount Isa, knowing with 300 kilometres stops, you know, and charge.
Yeah.
But on the trip I had from out to Ayers Rock, I got a shock because we were driving from Mount Isa straight down the Stewart Highway. I forget the name of the petrol station, the last stop before you turn right, go into Ayers Rock, middle of bloody nowhere, and they've got the big service station and camels and all the other stuff. And over to the left there's a massive, great big shelter with about 8 charging stations, and the whole roof is all solar panels, and so they charge that up from those.
Yeah.
So, you know, the last about an hour and a half drive out of Ayers Rock, there's this massive big EV charging station.
Yeah,
Along the way.
yeah, I sort of picture that one.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's a type of charging that Australia should use a lot more of, because there's certainly places in Australia where that's needed, rather than trying to expand the grid to the extent where you have high power being available for DC chargers.
No cars there.
That's generally in combination with a large amount of batteries as well.
Ted, what's the requirements if you plug in and home? You've got to have a special 15 or 30 amp cable and things there. Or you plug it into a standard cap?
I'm gonna say that most, if not all, EVs are sold with a cable. Having said that, I think Tesla asks you to pay for it, but there are cables that plug into your car on one end, and a power point on the other. Standard power point, and that power point, if that power point is running on single phase normal power, you'll probably get about 2.4 kilowatts per hour. But that's not a lot. But if you have a 3-phase home and it's a 30 kilowatt power point, you obviously will get more. But I've actually got a wall charger installed, and that's around about $1,500 installed, and it provides. For me, it provides up to 7 kilowatts per hour, because I don't have 3-phase. If you had 3-phase, it could provide up to 22 kilowatts per hour. 7 kilowatts per hour will charge the car completely in 6 hours, no problem. But they're initially the NRMA, you might see they're that they were a big driver on the initial stages for fast chargers around Australia, and particularly New South Wales. But then you've got other things like ChargeFox and EV Networks, and even Tesla and those which are getting there. And the thing is that the cost of actually installing it is not particularly cheap, because you have to have a good amount of power provided to that site. So that involves a lot of networking with the actual power company to make sure that can happen. If that doesn't happen, then you can't do it. Now, I sort of mentioned this a little earlier, but at home I've got a 7 kilowatt wall charger. I also use solar and a home battery. For road trips, greater than say 200 kilometres, because I don't have to if it's under that, because my range in my car is about 511 kilometres, which obviously will be a little bit less if it's highway, but it'll be a little bit more if it's all around town. But generally, if you don't have solar or batteries, then the average kilowatt is around 33 cents a kilowatt.
And how far can you go on a kilowatt?
It does depend on the car, of course. Now,
I mean, I don't know what it's
Mine just said this morning, 15 kilowatts per 100 kilometres.
yeah, mine will do about 15.5 kilowatts for 100 kilometres, and I think I've got some stats here if you want to add them up. But the average
average commute per day is that 8. So everyone in Brisbane only have an 8 kilometre trip to and from work. That sounds very low to me.
no,
That's your situation.
my situation. Where'd you get the 8 kilometre?
So it's a work and return.
16 is what I think.
Oh, the average. Oh, okay. They were stats taken from the Australian government about what they believe cars commute on average. That's for suburban cars.
And that would be 8 there and 8 back.
Yes. I probably do between that and say 20 kilometres.
That sounds like Canberra to me. But they don't work, so they don't use it.
Therefore, every 6.25 days to charge, if I don't have solar, at 33 cents, it'll cost me $5.28 to charge my car. Every 6.25 days. Most people would fill up with fuel maybe once a week, and I can guarantee your fuel bill's not $5.28. So if you drove 1,500 kilometres per year, that's $792 per year for 15,000 kilometres, based on not having solar.
And you're not paying petrol extra.
And you're not paying petrol, or you're not paying for petrol, full stop, but the excise question is a whole other side of the things, because I would say no EV driver thinks they shouldn't pay for the roads. The government says if you use petrol, you pay for the roads. Guess what? It goes in consolidated revenue, not for the roads. Very little goes to the roads. So basically your excise, something like 42 cents a litre, is directly going to the government for their own use, for the rest of the budget.
There's that figure there of 100k commute for a 5-day week. That's 500k a week. That's not equivalent to 15,000 kilometres a year.
No, what I was saying is I average 16 kilometre hours to do 100 kilometres, full stop. That's not relating to the 15,000. That's what I do for 100 kilometres. Okay, so based on that, if I'm doing 15,000 kilometres, it'll cost me $792 per year, based on how often I have to charge to do that many kilometres. So if you drive $16,000 in a petrol car that does 6 litres per 100 kilometres, which is pretty close to hybrid territory. Most hybrids will do that, but very few other cars. Then the average fuel, say if it's $1.90 which I've seen it, despite having an EV, I still look at the petrol costs, and it does go up and down quite a bit. And $1.90 I've used as an average. And if you that cost is now $1,710 per year, as opposed to $792, which is nearly $1,000 saving in fuel.
Like years ago, when they put the water meters in, it's not going to vacuum, they said.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, got them in. Sorry, we charge for water meters. Now, it's with electric cars, when a lot of people get them, they'll say, oh, we've got to charge you.
Well, and I agree they should, because the roads need to be maintained, and you can't. What they should do is cancel fuel excise, get rid of it, and do a general cost for everyone, not just EVs, everyone, to help contribute, pay for the roads. Now, you can do that a number of ways. I'd like them to do it on weight, because some people say, oh, those EVs are heavy, therefore I pay more. Well, my car weighs probably less than most of the cars out there, so if I do it in weight, I'll be okay. But the reason I say that is because trucks pay very little on they get a benefit from the government for and yet they do the most damage to the roads by far, and they're not paying for it. Now, the other thing with cars in general, particularly EV cars, you have to have a good knowledge of how to use the system to control your car. Some models or some brands of models have a very complex infotainment system where to do anything in your car you have to tap on the screen, like in Tesla, for instance. I'm not sure if they've brought back blinker sticks, but they did take them off because they put that on the steering wheel and the control panel, forward and reverse on the control panel or the overhead panel. So those sorts of things are just, I think, a little bit ridiculous. Like, you want to change the volume of the radio, you got to tap a radio. Yeah, what's wrong with pressing a little knob and turning it? A lot of cars, certainly the older ones, just have that. And I think with some of the new EVs, they've got limited amount of buttons, which is to their advantage, because old people like me like to be able to easily change something without stuffing around on a control screen. But with some models you can't do that. You've got to stuff around the control screen. So I haven't driven a lot of EVs, so maybe if I did drive one of those cars, I'd get used to it, and then I'd fall in love with it, perhaps, or I'd hate it and think, oh, I want to go back to my old car, my old EV. Well, some people think that they're soulless because they love the sound of a V8. Yeah, they like to hear the revs. It gives them satisfaction. There are a few models around, thankfully not a lot, but there are a few which have a synthetic sound. and which can only be heard in the cabin. So they're completely silent going past you, but inside the cabin it sounds like you're going, "Rah, yeah, I'm going fast."
Does yours do that, Tess?
No, mine doesn't. No. But initially, when they first started doing that, they played around with some things like if you're doing say between 5 to 10 kilometres an hour in a car park, for example, that's where it identifies you might be in a car park, it'll have a humming sound so that pedestrians don't walk in front of you and get killed or injured because you've run into them. Yeah. Yeah. But I just have to make sure I don't run into people because my car just is quiet.
You could always sneak up on them and blast them.
You could.
You could. The other myth is that they're just town runabouts. As I said, with my car, I spend it running around town, and it's ideal for me. But I have driven to Gladstone recently, and a few times, in fact, with my EV, and it's no problem at all. And so generally speaking, if you want an EV and you only drive interstate, then you have to be probably a bit more cautious about choosing your EV, because you at least want a range suitable to have a choice of various charges along the way, because what happens if one's full and they're sitting there for 3/4 of an hour? Do you have to wait for 3/4 of an hour? Well, you will if you want to go there. Or do you go to the next one and see if that's vacant? And with the app, you can see if one's vacant or not. And the good thing about Teslas, which I didn't buy one, but the good thing about a Tesla is that the car will tell you if a charger is needed, and it'll direct you to one automatically on your route, and it'll also tell you if that particular one is being used or not on your screen. So you don't have to fiddle around with a phone or anything.
Can you book it?
Sorry?
Can you book them? So you don't have to race 100 mile an hour to the next track? No. You can't pre-book.
I don't believe you can, but that would be a next step for them to introduce. The problem with that is of course, that it'll be abused and people would book it and change their mind and not turn up.
Yeah, but they get charged for it.
Well, that's the other thing that Tesla started to do. If you charge your car to the amount you want that you've set in your car, and it stops charging, and you don't unplug it within a certain amount of time, it'll start charging you for wasting the space. Whereas other chargers don't do that, but Teslas do, and I think they all should, because the idea is to charge to 80% if you're on a long trip, and then move on to the next one, because from 10 to 80, it'll charge quickly, especially if it's got a preconditioner in the car that gets the battery to the right temperature, so that when it charges, it's at the maximum speed.
What if the internal combustion engine vehicle parks in the EV space and it's blown up?
I have seen that, and that's what we call being iced.
Oh, really?
As
Not blowing it up.
It leads to sudden deflation of cars.
yeah, but this is my trip to Gladstone, and this app I use here is called a Better Route Planner. And a Better Route Planner is very customizable. You can set all sorts of things on it about the state of your battery when you leave, the state of the battery you want when you get there, and it'll work out where you've got to go to charge. It worked out for me to get from Brisbane at 100%, my home at 100%, to my mum's place at 15%, which I'm a little bit nervous about doing myself, but so I actually charged a little bit longer than that. But I only need to stop there at Maryborough for 13 minutes. It took me longer than 30 minutes at Jamie Oliver's, so I was happy to have a little extra charge to arrive a bit higher. And my mum's got good solar, so I was able to top up there anyway.
So Maryborough, you'd only charge to 80%, is that?
Yeah.
It's the quickest one to 80, isn't it?
And the thing is that when you do that, sites become available a lot more often, whereas icing where a petrol car parks there is bad. It's also bad when a person who has an electric car leaves their car there, it's fully charged, and they've gone away somewhere shopping or, you know, and not come back and move their car. That's also very bad. And human nature being it is, there's some nice people that will do that. But this particular app, I'm able to use an OBD. It's called an OBD2, which is not onboard diagnostic dongle. Every car has one, but you know, ICE cars, electric cars, that I can plug in to my underneath my steering wheel, and it'll connect directly to a better route planner and update. So if I told Better Route Planner I was leaving here with 100%, and I plug in the OBD and I actually had 80%, it'll update it to 80%, and it might recalculate and say I need to charge somewhere else. And you can use the Better Route Planner as navigation as well. So it'll have on the screen your current battery charge and how long you need to charge it for at the next place, which is the sort of thing that Tesla does automatically. And I don't know if it's similar to the one Graham was talking about, but it's one with lots of batteries and solar power out in eastern edge of the Nullarbor Plain.
Yeah, I was going across the Nullarbor Plain and I arrived fairly low on fuel at a petrol station.
Yeah.
It only had diesel.
Yeah. But now, some say charging takes too long, and my example of Maryborough, for instance, to get up to where I wanted on a 6.5 hour road trip for 615 kilometres takes only one stop for 13 minutes. So that's not long, but generally speaking, if your car is a different brand of car and it only charges at a lower speed, some charge only at 80 kilowatts. So if they plug into a 300 kilowatt charger, that's the other thing. You shouldn't do that if you only charge 80, because you're taking up a space where other people can use it that do charge quicker. So you try and find a 100 kilowatt charger somewhere and charge on that. And because you only charge at 80 kilowatts, it's a lot slower. So nowadays technology is improving dramatically. BYD have now produced 1,000 kilowatt charge speed in a car. That is unbelievably quick. That'll make it as quick, if not quicker, than a petrol car. Mind you, they're not for sale in Australia yet. I asked this a little earlier about how long they last, and I'm pretty sure we covered that, but generally speaking, it all depends also on how you look after your battery. Because I do around town, I only charge my battery to 60% when I'm going around town. I only charge it to 100 for road trips, and then after that 80 while I'm on the road trip.
Does that improve your battery life?
It does. That's why I do it, because it improves your battery life enormously. On the stats I've read, if I keep on doing that, the battery will last longer than I live, and probably longer than my son lives as well. That's in theory. Yeah.
And Tess, if you had to replace a battery, let's assume that something went wrong with it, what is the cost of a new battery if you have to replace one?
Well, it used to be quite expensive, and I think it's reducing quite a bit, and it does depend on model to model, because some batteries in some cars are part of the body. They're built into the body. They're a lot more expensive to replace. If that battery got below 70% and and you're outside the warranty period, personally I'd buy another car. Yeah.
Okay. So
But-
really, so you could
and-
just put a new battery in, it's very unlikely you do that.
Well,
It's unlikely.
it's unlikely, because getting down to 70% is also unlikely. The way I choose to charge, but if I continually charge to 100%, use fast chargers a lot, which charges rapidly and causes cell degradation more than it would if you just charged at home. Then sure, my battery would then not last as long. But the way I use it, and the way most people use their particular EVs in Australia domestically, no problem. You know, they can last a long time. And so when it comes time to get a new car, is again a choice, because the technology is growing tremendously. You might see a shiny new thing that you want in 10 years. You say, oh, mine's 10 years old now, I want a new car. You know, and that's a personal choice. If do you need the new car? Well, no, you probably don't. Your car's probably still quite good, but you know, provided you look after it. Yeah, but that's a Model S that was on the fully charged show. The battery was replaced after it done 666,000 kilometres, having finally dropped below 70% original capacity. And I believe that was under warranty, less than 10 years. Obviously, I'd say he's a Uber driver or something like that. No, no, it's certainly not. Now, okay, I can wrap it up. But the other thing about recycling batteries, because they're relatively new in Australia, the recycling is not as prolific in Australia yet, but it's going to become so when it's needed, because generally speaking, the best way to recycle your battery is to use it for your house batteries. So what if it's only 70%? You know, your house battery, it'll power your house, no problem at all. But generally speaking, most batteries, all batteries, are recyclable. It's just you just need the companies available to do that. And as time goes on, more of those will be around. Whereas if you have a petrol car, once your petrol engine is stuffed, it's pretty much junk. Are there any questions? I should wrap it up now. No questions? Okay, because I didn't know how long this would go for. It did depend on questions, and I do have probably 20 more slides, but
From part two.
I was hoping that I'll be able to get through them, but I wasn't able to today. But I encourage people to investigate on YouTube themselves about EVs in general, the good and the bad, because there are both aspects that you need to be aware of.
Give a quick rundown on the downside of it.
No, we'll start to death.
We'll save that for another
Oh,
time.
next time.
Next time, you firm to.
Okay.
Save that for another time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ted. Gentlemen, that's the end of the formal stuff. Afternoon tea's ready. Enjoy. See you Friday. Thank you.
You get external. Oh, yeah, you do it at home.
I think it needs a update.